right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Them Nerds. Today, in our second ever episode, we are going to do our first ever Throwback Thursday. Every Thursday, my boy Jerry and I are going to share a movie, TV show, cartoon, video game, or some other piece of nostalgia from nerd history, particularly from our childhood. Today we decided that we were going to talk a little bit about one of my favorites, Spaceballs. Spaceballs, as you may recall, is a parody film that kind of riffs on Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes even a little bit. Came out in 1987. It's a brainchild of Mel Brooks. He wrote the thing, he directed the thing, he produced it, he co-wrote it. Fun fact, one of his co-writers was the priest in the wedding at the beginning. I didn't know that. Anyway, so Jerry, what did you think, man? It's been a while for me seeing this. How long ago did you watch this before we watched it for this show?
1987, maybe.
Been a little while?
It's been a while, you know. VHS.
Yeah. I've tried watching it a lot over the years, and I think the last time I watched it, I was probably a teenager or like my early 20s. It's been a while. What do you think? Did it hold up? Was it everything you remembered it to be?
I will say, for nostalgia purposes, it held up. I don't know if the movie itself was the blockbuster that I remembered it being.
Right. Not quite as amazing and like, oh, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, because that's how I used to feel about it.
I remember just like laughing uncontrollably at it, but I'm guessing like, you know, any 8-year-old laughs when they're making ball jokes. Yes. But now as an older person,
so much more distinguished in your old age.
I won't say there was a whole lot of belly laughs or anything, which was odd because they had two of the strongest comedians in that movie. Well, the movie itself is completely surrounded by funny people, and it just seemed like maybe because comedy nowadays has changed so drastically. But I mean, you got Joan Rivers in there, and the funniest line she has in there is about deactivating her Virgin alarm.
The Virgin alert.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is one of the women who like it has some of the most grotesque, overly sexualized material of anybody, especially somebody of her age. And so to put her in a robot suit, which was genius, to make her, you know, the C-3PO of this movie, and then just kind of dull her down, didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely cheesier than I remember. The cheese factor, I mean, Mel Brooks always has, you know, the stuff is funny, but of course it's always got that little layer of cheese. You know, you look at Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles, and there's always that layer of cheese. But this one was just, I mean, super cheesy.
Yeah, but you know, it's like one of those things. If you watch Young Frankenstein right now, you're going to laugh when you hear every time. But this movie, I watched it and like, I was just like, I won't lie. It took me. It was only an hour and 36-minute movie, but it ended up taking me 3 hours because at about the 54-minute mark, I had fallen asleep. So, but it's definitely. I wouldn't say that I like didn't like the movie. I thought there was plenty of good parts, and like when you watch, you're like, oh, that's, you know, the Wizard of Oz when they're, you know, go to meet yogurt, or at the very end where the man eats the bowl of soup and he ends up, I believe it was a bowl of soup, and he ends up having the alien bust out of his stomach, which is a direct reference to Aliens.
Right.
And I believe, if I remember right, but I haven't seen Aliens in years either, that the guy who played that guy was actually the guy in Aliens who had the alien bust out of his stomach.
John Hurt. That was
yeah. So it's like, you know, there's things in there that you're like, it's fun to, you know, watch again. You got John Candy in there.
Oh yeah.
Who, you know, is one of the funniest people ever, that a whole generation of people will never know how funny he was. And he had some great lines in the movie, but I don't know whether or not, I felt like it was more of making fun of, you know, Star Wars and stuff like that, rather than really being funny.
Yeah.
It was no, you know, Scary Movie, the first Scary Movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like, and I bet if I watched Scary Movie right now, I wouldn't think it was that funny either.
Right.
So,
Right.
because I was also 16 when I saw that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the stuff that cracked us up when we were, 16 is not the same, today when you go back and watch it. Yeah, John Candy for me, he's the highlight of the movie for me. He's so funny, and just to see him and like the first time we meet Lone Star and Barf when they're in the Winnebago and he's dancing around and he's eating, and it's just so like quintessential, like that's John Candy, and it's cool to see him like that. And Joan Rivers, I mean, hearing her voice and little funny things like when they're in the spaceship taking off from Duridia at the beginning, and she's talking to Princess Vespa, and she says, "Can we talk?" Like, I thought that was a great little inclusion, And even better was that Princess Vespa's buns were actually headphones. So good.
Yes.
But like the cheese factor, man, especially like I was writing little notes when I was watching it, and one of the things I wrote down was, would it even be an 80s movie if we didn't have Michael Winslow making goofy sounds?
Right. Yeah.
Like so cheesy though.
Yeah, and it's cheesy like, oh, it's been jammed, and it's actually like a large bottle of jam.
So bad. But at the time, it's like, ha ha ha, so funny.
Yeah.
And like the cheesy 80s Spaceballs song after the self-destruct sequence got started at the end, and Lone Star was running out, and it's like, Spaceballs.
Yeah.
So bad. It's just so bad. But I'll tell you what. My favorite. I'll talk about my favorite things about this movie and my least favorite things, and then I'll ask you the same. But my favorite thing about this movie, other than John Candy and Joan Rivers being there, and Mel Brooks. I love Mel Brooks. Even if stuff is cheesy, he can do no wrong in my eyes. The guy is hilarious. But I loved how the fourth wall was totally breached. And, nowadays you hear people talk about Deadpool, and they're like, oh, he's so funny because he breaks the fourth wall. And, meanwhile, we're looking at this movie, and the President Scroob takes the transporter, and he goes, it works on Star Trek. It's so good. And then the part where Lone Star says something about, oh, great, all we need, a Druish princess, and John Candy deadpans at the camera. She doesn't look Druish. So good. One of my favorite moments in the whole movie, and it's a kind of a fourth wall break, and it's also very cheesy, where they're chasing after them, and they find their stunt doubles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. That's the one thing that made me, like, laugh out loud, even as an old man as I am today. My least favorite part were the two leads. Bill Pullman is a great actor, and Daphne Zuniga, I don't know if she's a great actress or not. I don't probably not.
I don't remember her from anything else afterwards. So
yeah, I think she was in. Was she in Melrose Place or something? I remember her being in one of those like teen drama type shows.
Oh, she might have been. I don't know.
Anyway, I don't know, but they were supposed to be like the leads, and I felt like they didn't fit as naturally into that kind of like cheesy parody humor role like John Candy and Mel Brooks did. You kind of expected it from them, and it seemed natural. And there were just so many parts where Bill Pullman and Daphne Zuniga were just like so like cardboard sounding, and I couldn't get over it. The acting was
he was a little overacting.
Yeah,
he was a little overacting.
Yeah. Rick Moranis was great too.
Oh, Rick Moranis was amazing. That actually is one of my favorite scenes is when he's in his room by himself playing with the dolls.
Yes.
And the man walks up behind him and he's just like, "What did you see?"
That's so good. So, all right, tell me about that's one of your favorite moments. Tell me what else. What were the things that stood out to you as being like they actually hold up? They're still funny. They're enjoyable. What would you like?
I don't know why when I was young I thought it was funny, and I still think it's funny when the president goes to get into the escape capsule and it's a bear's in there and he's trying to lock the bear claws. I don't know why I think it's funny, but Uh, you know, I think there was like, there was moments within the movie that I thought were really good and funny. Like where he's pops open the can of fresh air. It's like salt free, which I didn't quite get, but I mean it's still funny. And I mean anything with Joan Rivers in is going to be, I'm going to think is great because I think she's hilarious. But I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I think that I was one of those movies that I think it would have been better just left in my head.
Right.
Did we ruin
it?
Huh?
Did we ruin it?
I think I might have ruined it a little bit for myself.
Oh no.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed watching it now was it's kind of interesting watching a president who is a lecherous womanizer who is quite inept at his job. I don't know anybody like that.
No, that's such satire. I don't get it.
It's just so out of the realm of reality. I don't know. We here at Them Nerds do not endorse any political party or candidate. So I don't know. I think that it's one of those things, like you said, maybe it's better left back in our childhood memories. But it's one of those things that I'm definitely going to show my kids when they're old enough. And I'll probably still watch it someday just for the pure cheese nostalgia factor. I would say that my overall opinion of it definitely is not as high as when I was a kid. But I mean, what are you going to do? It's, you've got Jawas that are actually, little people painted with gold glitter.
Yeah.
It's so bad. That whole thing with yogurt when he's down in Yogurt's lair, and the merchandising, which I actually also really thought that was funny. Star Wars was such a merchandising juggernaut, to kind of riff on that and be like, merchandising is good stuff.
When the power of the Schwartz, and they put out their sabers, and Rick Moranis makes the comment, they're both the same size. I mean, there is definitely funny moments in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely worth watching. I just don't know if you watch it and you really enjoy it, just leave it there.
Yeah.
Don't be like, I'm gonna revisit this in a week, because it's not gonna sit the same.
I'm really curious, because we plan on doing this every week. I'm really curious how much of our childhood we are just going to obliterate by doing this.
Probably, I'm going to guess that there's quite a bit.
Right. We are going to cover next week. I think we decided. Did we decide Howard the Duck?
Yeah, I think that is the one we're going to do.
So Jerry believes I should have my nerd card pulled